Thank you, Marcia. So here we are this month talking about cosmic order. And what came through me was kind of a simplistic title for what usually comes through me in the divine creativity of spirit, our extraterrestrial role. Okay, so first, I would like to start with a ritual that's become kind of the norm for me. That is, we start with a joke, what's called a joke. And the reason I like to do this, it opens us up in ways that I don't can't think of anything else that does open us up in that way. So this is a real easy little joke. So President Biden was visiting an assisted care place, like what we used to call a nursing home, but an assisted care facility. So he's walking down the halls, and of course he has the huge entourage that comes with him, and he's saying hello to people and this person and that person. And so then he sees a elderly individual, and he just, as he walks by and says hello, that person just doesn't even give him the time of day, doesn't nod, doesn't say hello or anything like that. And so President Biden backs up and says, wait a minute, excuse me, do you know who I am? And the elderly person says to him, well, yeah, I know who you are, but if you don't know who you are, you can go to the front desk and they'll probably tell you who you are. Okay, that's where we laugh. So the reason that that joke, that silliness came to me, first I want to say too, it just hit me when Marcia was singing that, seriousness is a part of our enlightenment and our expansion and spirituality. But however, on the other side of silliness can be giddiness and gaiety and joyousness. So that's why these what I call jokes, but they're just really funnies, really open us up in that way. So the reason that little funny spoke to me is, who are we? Like they said, well, if you go to the front desk, they can probably tell you your name and who you are. Actually, who are we? So I was thinking about our extraterrestrial role. Boy, that's a tongue twister. I didn't realize that, our extraterrestrial role. And so I looked up a definition. I haven't been doing definitions recently. However, I did look up the definition of extraterrestrial. And really what it said was just spectacular. In the dictionary I looked, it said outside, originating outside the limits of Earth. Isn't that profound? Originating outside the limits of Earth, because we are limitless beings of spirit. We are Earth. Our body temples are earth bound right now, but our very beingness, the soul of who and what we are, the essence of who and what we are, is really outside the limits of Earth. Because as I said, we're limitless. So I was thinking about this and being with it all week, and of course, what came to me was that old movie E.T., which I'm sure all of us have seen that movie. And those of you who are too young to know about the movie, it was a blockbuster movie. I think that must have been in the 70s, 80s, 60s. I'm not really sure. If it was in the 60s, I was probably a little girl when I saw it. Anyway, in the movie E.T., here's what happens. Okay, I just went through the synopsis of it. Is this alien gets stranded on Earth. And of course, the alien looks different than the Earthlings. All right, so that's something very different. Then this alien is discovered by and befriended by a little boy. And the little boy gets his sister involved in it too, these two young children. And what could be more telling than that the alien is befriended by a little boy and a little girl? Because when we are children, it appears, or I believe, that we are closer to the source. That as we get farther along in chronological years, sometimes there's an opportunity for us to be away from the source. That is to say, to know our real truth, to really embody the truth and get ensconced in the truth and really understand the truth of who and what we are. And the little children inside us still know the truth and the purity of each of us. So this alien that looked different than everyone else, is befriended by and befriends a little boy and a little girl. Okay, so the movie goes on. So what happens then is the alien gets sick. The alien has some sort of dis-ease. Now, when I was looking at this a few days ago, I just wrote down alien gets sick. However, what's coming to me now is the dis-ease was for clarity. It was for bringing something up. It was for bringing the truth up. It was for breaking through for these children and everyone these children were associated with. So the alien has some sort of dis-ease, and the government gets involved and the government intervenes. I am not saying that the government is not a wonderful thing. Our government can be a wonderful thing. However, the suits got involved. Okay, so what I mean by that, the suits got involved. The people who are lockstep in the linear thinking of life got involved. So, of course, the alien has to leave. The alien is required to go back home. The alien's home planet sends a spaceship for him, it, they. Okay, sends a spaceship and he leaves. However, when he leaves, he does that thing which you all probably remember. He takes his finger and touches the little boy's forehead, where the light comes through and says, I'll be right here. So this is really a great way to me of explaining the extraterrestrial that each one of us is. So I'd like you to just take a moment, take a breath. Thank you so much, Michael and Beverly, for leading us into this service in the breathingness of spirit, because the breathingness of spirit is who and what we are. When we allow ourselves to be in the breath. Then also the breath is one of the things that is the wealthiest part of us, because it's circulation. It's circulation. It's breathing in, it's breathing out, it's breathing in that is ours to breathe in and imbibe, and it is letting go of that is ours, that it no longer serves us. So I'd like you to just take a moment, take a deep breath, and allow yourself to think of any situation or place or experience where you might be feeling outside of yourself. We don't have to go deep with this. It doesn't have to be a big shebang. Just allow yourself to be aware of some place or some experience, some situation where you might be feeling outside of yourself. And just hold that in your heart. Just hold it in your heart, because we're going to delve into it a little bit as we go along. So the most important thing about knowing ourselves is that we get an opportunity to feel the ET that we are, the extraterrestrial that each one of us is. Yes, we are here on earth. However, like it says in the Bible, and it's well-known verse, we can be in the earth, but not of it. Okay, so here we are. We all chose these stunningly gorgeous body temples to arrive in, each one of us. And we also chose these body temples for our learning and growth. And I say that because it just came up for me. Any dis-ease in our body temple is helping us. It's for our learning. It's for our growth. It's revelation in, through, and as us. It's a revelation of the lessons that we have come here to learn, to teach, and to be. Because just because we're learning a lesson, it doesn't just stop with us. It radiates out. Just like Marcia was singing to us about being light. It radiates out through the light that each of us is. Because do you know that wherever you are, there's this radiant, luminescent light pouring forth. And other beings recognize the light, feel the light, magnetize to the light. So I want to remind us that is who and what we are. We are that radiant light. And you might be saying to yourself, I don't know, Reverend Verona, sometimes I don't feel like the light. And yeah, okay, all right, I'm down with that. However, the light is still there within you. The light is still shining. And sometimes we may not feel like the light is shining. However, the light is still in us. And that light is connected to the cosmic order of the universe. The light that we are is part of the cosmic order of the universe. And I was thinking about the cosmic order of the universe. And for those of you who know, I go for nature walk most days. And a lot of times I go by the ocean, the mighty Pacific Ocean. And I often feel the energetic of the tides, when it's low tide, when it's high tide, and that I can feel literally in my body. I can feel the cosmic force of spirit when I'm standing at the ocean. I can also feel it when I'm standing underneath a tree. However, the cosmic force of the universe is that light that's within us. It's the radiance that's within us. It is absolutely the geophysical forces that make themselves known in, through, and as each one of us. Quite a mouthful. However, each one of us, like it says in the Joel Goldsmith reading, Practicing the Presence, and I so love Joel Goldsmith, God is working out its life as our life. Okay, so whatever is happening in your life, Spirit is working itself out as your life. Spirit is absolutely, giving you an opportunity, as Eva Bell Werber says, to remember you're not just a part of the cosmic force. No, baby, not you. No, you are not just part of the cosmic force. You are the cosmic force. Whew, that is very profound. You are the cosmic force. And so when you know you're the cosmic force, this situation or this place or this experience that you're holding in your heart where you may be feeling outside of yourself, it's the cosmic force's call to that situation, that place, that experience, that endeavor. because each of us is the cosmic force. Each and every one of us is the cosmic force. Wherever you are, whatever you're being, whatever you're participating in, each of us is the cosmic force. So I was thinking about, okay, so if we are the cosmic force and we are in the world but not of it, in what ways does the cosmic force show up in our lives for the implementation of its shining through? Well, I want to share with you, I watched this really great show. It's kind of a nerdy show. However, I watched this really great show on Amazon Prime called Cruising the Cuts. And it is about, when I tell you, you're going to say, oh gosh, she's a nerd. However, I own it. It is about a young man who in Great Britain has a longboat, and he cruises the canals of Great Britain. And they are called the cuts because these canals of Great Britain, I didn't know this, were built so that in Great Britain, they could get goods from one place to another through the country. And they were built a long, long time ago. They were built in the 1800s. Okay, so there's this gentleman, and he cruises what's called cruising the cuts. And he has a longboat. It's a 56-foot long boat, and it's narrow, and he cruises the cuts. And he goes to all these different places, and he cruises along with other people. And it's, for me, probably because of my nature walks, it's very soothing and scenic for me because a lot of the show is no sound, just him cruising the cuts, looking at what's on the shoreline and just cruising along. Okay, so part of the cruising the cuts is that there are locks that he gets to navigate. And what the locks are about is what most locks are about, just like the famous lock of all, the Panama Canal. The water level is different on one side or the other, so that his boat needs to be lifted or lowered. And so what he gets to do is when he gets to a lock, like one time he was cruising part of the canal, 27 locks. He gets to get out of his boat. He gets to open up the lock. He gets to move his boat through. He gets to go back and close the lock, and then he gets to keep going on. Okay, and so why am I telling you about cruising the cuts and this opening the locks? Because in our lives sometime, for us to be the cosmic force, there may appear to be locks that we get to navigate. There may appear to be places where we get to do this, like in this show, this Cruising the Cuts show. Sometimes there are other cruisers that help him with the locks, but most of the time he does the locks all by himself. So I'm saying this to each one of us because we get to do the locks on our own. And the actual navigating the locks of our life on our own, we came here with all we needed to navigate these locks. We came prepared. It's already in our tool belt. It's already hooked around our waist. If we want to call ourselves like the tool man, tool woman, tool person, it is already within us. And so I was thinking, okay, so for these locks, for these locks, what do these locks do? First, they unlock us from the boundedness to earth. They give us an opportunity to be the unboundedness of earth. They give us an opportunity to be the cosmic force that each of us is. Okay, because each of these, just like this situation, this happening, this possibility, this what we're holding in our heart today, that is an opportunity for unlocking. That's an opportunity to release and let go of the boundedness to earth and be part of the unlocking unboundedness, because we are energy. We are the soul of energy. Okay, we are the soul of energy. We are not just body temples. We are the absolute soul of energy. And sometimes when we're unlocking these locks, sometimes it seems challenging. I was listening to a nature program. Also, I love nature programs. And it was about lions and how when the male lion shows up to show territorialism, that's when we hear the male lions roar. That's when they roar. They give that big, splendid roar, okay? Well, sometimes our ego shows up and is roaring in our head. I don't know about you, but my ego is roaring in my head. Thoughts of doubt and concern and unworthiness and inability to absolutely navigate the locks. Inability to navigate that is already there, put there for my use of the cosmic force. That is the truth of who and what each one of us is. And so when we unlocking these locks, so what principles that are already within us are available there for unlocking the locks? Well, of course, some answers came to me. So one of the first things that's within us for unlocking the locks, for being the extraterrestrial of spirit that each of us really is, not earthbound, is releasing judgment. So releasing judgment, this is a pretty big one. In fact, in my life, it's a humongous one. In probably most of our lives, it's a pretty big one. And the thing is, the releasing judgment may not always feel so organic and natural. However, if we embody love without knowing the how, if we just allow ourselves to embody love without knowing the how, then releasing judgment is not something that is a challenge. It's not something that's hard. It feels really like you're rolling off of a log, or like, I don't know, you're rolling out of bed in the morning, or you're just fluidly moving along in life, you know. So if we allow ourselves, just allow yourself to embody love, and without knowing the how, as we're releasing judgment, know that is, you know, as you're releasing the judgment, it is encapsulated in love. Like it's held in love, it is swaddled in love, it is covered in love. It's like I don't know, M&M. And on the M&M peanut, and on the inside is the peanut, on the inside is releasing the judgment, and then the chocolate on the outside is love. Yeah. So it's something like that. If we allow ourselves to do that, that's one of the ways that we can really be the cosmic force and really be the truth of who and what each of us is. And then one of the other ways that this can happen is we can do a self-actualization practice. Self-actualization practice is because we have an innate, bespoke, built-in intentions for us. We came with them. They're in us. They're the gifts that Spirit decided, okay, Reverend Cindy, here are the gifts I'm going to put in you. Okay, Laurel, here's the gifts that you get. Okay, Michael, here's the gifts that you are. They're the gifts that came built into us. And they're, when think about the gifts that came built into us, it's when you're being what you're being, and it feels spectacular, and time flies, and you really don't think about it. The gifts that we came with, the gifts that we know, the splendor and the radiance that's in and as each one of us. You know, I realize I'm getting kind of deep in here today. We're going into a place of real intimacy. However, this is what we are: splendor, radiance, luminosity. So when we get in a place of self-actualization, we get to know these things about us, you know. And I love this. My grandmother, Verona, who I am named after, used to say this a lot. She used to remind us that God, spirit, source energy, in our terminology, new thought terminology right now, says to us, I have called you by your name, and you are mine. Whew, think about it. All of those words I just used has called us by its name, and each one of us belongs to it. You are mine, and I am yours. So if we practice self-actualization and really hold those statements in our heart, it flows, it happens, it unfolds. It really is before you realize it, you're thinking, wow, this is good. This is easy and effortless. Okay, and so now the third way, I love working in threes. I think Spirit, I believe it's part of the triune nature of our learning. However, another way for us to just unblock our earthboundedness and become the ET, extraterrestrial, that each one of us is gratitude. And we get to be grateful for every single thing that happens in our life. We get to be grateful for the spectacular, wonderful things that happen in our life that anyone could notice that they are. And we get to be grateful for the challenges. We get to be grateful for what we might consider the dark sides of our life. We get to be grateful for all of this because we get to acknowledge the Christ consciousness that lives within each one of us. And the Christ consciousness, what does that speak to? The infinite possibilities that each of us is. You know, as we know from biblical terminology, and he said it himself, Jesus the Christ, yet another prophet, he said, I'm not the one. I'm not the exception. No. Everyone has this in them. Everything that I'm doing, you have it in you. It's within you. It is you, as you. It's already what you have chosen, because really we all, the entities that each one of us chose. We made a choice. We chose to be the truth, the light, the love, the grace, the resilience, the harmony, the peace, the tenacity, and so much of Spirit. So when we are grateful, and sometimes it's not so easy to be in a place of gratitude. However, when we're grateful, knowing that the gratitude is the underpinnings of that gratitude is the Christ consciousness within. And in all things, you know, in the Christ consciousness, all things are possible, even things we cannot even imagine, even things that in our humanness, our brain may not be able to wrap itself around yet. So once again, the three ways that we can really surrender our earth boundedness, we can be the extraterrestrials that we are, is, of course, releasing judgment. We get to release judgment. And in the releasing judgment, I need to tell you that in my own life, this has not always been an easy thing. And I want to be transparent and let you know, it's real easy for me to release judgment about you, those of you who I see here on the screen. Real easy to do some of my forgiveness practices and release judgment about you. Much harder to release judgment with the being of light that I see in the mirror when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, or when I'm fixing my coiffure or putting on my makeup, or any of the fun things that come with being human. So in the releasing of the judgment, it gets to be embodied in love. Eternal love, unconditional love, infinite love, 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 love. And in our self-actualization practice, what we can wrap that up in, I was with someone yesterday who had a gorgeous aquamarine, and it was wrapped in wire. And he said he was wearing it because it brings more spirit into you. He said, if you find a gem you like, just let me know and I'll wrap it up for you. I'll wrap it in wire for you. So we get to wrap up our self-actualization practice in this biblical verse that I said before, knowing that I want to say here, the Bible is not the be all end all. There are several mystical books. However, it is a workbook that we get to use, just like a workbook you might use if you're doing, learning how to make something. Anyway, from that workbook, this statement of, I have called you by your name and you are mine. So if Spirit has called us by its name, is there anything that is not possible? How can there be? The Spirit has called us by its name. You know, another verse that comes to me, which is from my familial background too. If God be for you, who can be against you? Yeah. So we can like put those as the parentheses on the outside of our self-actualization process, our practice, excuse me. And the third way is gratitude. We get to be grateful. And I know that you're probably saying, oh, yeah, sure, Reverend Verona, gratitude. Yeah. The important part about the gratitude is we get to be thankful for it before it happens. We get to be thankful for when we're in the feeling tone of that we desire, that's where the Thanksgiving starts. That's where it kickstarts. That's where it starts activating. And in that gratitude, we get to know that the Christ consciousness within makes all things possible. That each one of us is our own Messiah. Each one of us is our own, each one of us is our own prophetic mystic that at one time there was one called Jesus. However, each one of our first names is the same as that name. Each one of us is filled to overflowing with the Christ consciousness. So, as Joel Goldsmith says, and I love the visualization of this, is God is working its life out as our life. As we step aside, we can see God shining through. So we get an opportunity to step aside. We get, as Ernest Holmes says, get out of the way of our own bloated nothingness. And when I first heard that, it was kind of creeped me out. However, it just means step aside from those things that we are not. Step aside from the roar of our ego inside our head. Step aside from that is not who and what we are. And of course, there is no duality in spirit. I don't want to say that. So it all is together. It all melts together. However, the highest truth that we are, the greatest truth that we are these things that we're speaking of. So you're thinking, okay, all right, Reverend Verona, how's this working in your life? Well, I really have been with this all week long, and I was thinking, okay, so what are some good examples? Well, here's an example in my life that really, the example that I'm giving, I had trepidation about giving it, and so I knew, oh yeah, Spirit, that's the one. So I am learning how to play what's called pickleball. Some of you know about pickleball. Most of the people who play pickleball are over age 55. That is not to say there's discrimination against millennials or 30-year-olds or 40-year-olds. However, it appears when I went to the pickleball court that a majority of the people are over 55. Okay. And so I went because I had heard about it from so many other people, several friends of mine, and also went because our own Jim Bender, he plays pickleball. And one time when we had our last outing on Easter for Agape Bay Area, he was mentioning that he had played 4 or 5 hours of pickleball the day before. And I thought, wow, this sounds interesting. This might be something to look into. So Jim was gracious enough to give me pickleball lessons 2 or 3 times. Okay, so when I went for the pickleball lessons, first thing I want to tell you is I, as a young woman and the rest of my life, didn't think of myself as an athlete. I grew up at an age just before I was like mid-teens, just before Title IX came. So that is to say that when I was in the part of my life that I might be allowed to join sports teams, it wasn't Title IX yet. And I don't know if you know, Title IX was the amendment that we got that allowed women to be part of all the sports. So I didn't think of myself as an athlete, even though I took ballet all my life, I took jazz dance all my life, and I danced on point, and that is athleticism. However, I was thinking, I was in this place of judging myself when I went to play pickleball with Jim. Well, I'm not an athlete. And this is on what is played with a paddle and a ball that's kind of like a tennis ball, but with holes in it. And it's on a tennis court, except the tennis court's been broken up into 4. So there's not a lot of running like in tennis. That's not, okay. So it's a little, quote unquote, it appears to be easier. Okay. However, before I got there, I was thinking, you're not an athlete, Verona. What are you doing this? What's the reason you're doing this? Come on, you're not an athlete. Okay. So I gave myself, and that truly, honestly, was going through my head. So initially, before I even went there, after Jim and I set up my first lesson, I got an opportunity to release the judgment of myself. And I got an opportunity to actually love myself just as I am. What I might consider athlete or not. Forget the fact that I danced in point shoes, which is the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life. However, most challenging and the most rewarding also. So first thing was I got a chance to release judgment when I was embarking upon this pickleball journey. The next thing was I got to do self-actualization practice, which was to know that I am the beloved's and the beloved is mine. And so if I embark upon this pickleball, it's going to turn out great. It's got to turn out great because I'm an expression of the one. I am the light of spirit shining through me, stepping aside and letting the light of spirit shine through. And spirit knows how to play everything because spirit made up pickleball. Pickleball came through someone as a result of that being of light, listening to spirit. So I got to do some self-actualization. Then I got to be in gratitude. I got to be in gratitude for everything that was to happen at the pickleball court, because I got to know that it was infinite possibilities because of the Christ consciousness within me, the Christ consciousness that I am, that lives and dwells and has its being within me. Okay, so I went to the I set it all up. I went to the pickleball court. Jim taught me how to play pickleball. I am a southpaw, so Jim's teaching me was we got to work that through. It was a little more challenging. However, I ended up having a splendid time. I had a splendid time through the times I couldn't hit the ball. I had a splendid time through the times that my serve went every which way but where it was supposed to go. I had a splendid time through the fact that someone came to me and made a racist statement about African Americans not being there or not being there. Oh, wow, look, there's an African American here. Wow. I still had a splendid time through all of that because it was all wrapped up in these 3 practices that I wasn't even aware that I was doing, that was just coming organically to me. The practices of gratitude and self-actualization and the practice of releasing judgment. So and I know this might sound like you might be thinking, well, maybe that example is just about something, silly like pickleball. No, the pickleball thing wasn't silly to me because it was stepping into the highest and best expression of spirit that I am. It was stepping into something brand new, stepping into something that I hadn't embarked upon before, and really being a part of the change of spirit within me. So if we allow ourselves to do this, if each one of us allows ourselves to use these practices as well as all of our other practices. Oh, and I forgot to say, all these practices, releasing judgment, self-actualization, and gratitude, are of course all rolled up in our Agape practices and principles of visioning, prayer, meditation, circulation/tithing, and selfless service. If we allow ourselves to roll them all together in our Agape principles and practices, our life is splendiferous. It is magnificent. It is the luminosity of spirit. It is things well above and beyond what we could ever think of. However, that thing that I told you to hold in your heart in the beginning, when you didn't feel it was kind of outside of yourself, we can also roll this all up into, recently I've been doing a lot of cooking and baking, roll it all up into the ingredients. It's all part of the ingredients of the finished product of spirit that each one of us is. So I'm inviting you this week, not challenging you, but I'm inviting you this week to accept and know the extraterrestrialness of each of us, of you, and of those that you encounter also. To know that we are not bound by earthliness, that we are the limitlessness of spirit. We are not in the limited realm of earth, and that each one of us gets to step into our extraterrestrialness in the knowingness of who and whose we are. Oh, let's pray.